Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles, and this is my birthday episode of Mingles with Jingles. I mean, it's not quite my birthday's tomorrow, on March the 10th, Tuesday. I share my birthday with other notable luminaries, such as Chuck Norris. Yep, he was born on the 10th of March 1940. Technically, at least by American standards, although not by the standards of the rest of the world, he was born before World War II, at least before America's entry into World War II. He is exactly 30 years older than me. He's going to be 86 tomorrow. I will merely be 56. I also share my birthday with none other than Osama bin Laden. Yes, really. So yeah, I'm going to be 56. Chuck's going to be 86. 56 is all right. I mean, 50 anything isn't that bad. I mean, you're not young, but you're not, old. It does mean, however, that I'm only 4 years away from being 60, and 60 is bad. 60 is going to be depressing. Although, I mean, just making it the 60 is going to be an achievement. Here's the thing. On the one hand, I've been incredibly lucky, and on the other hand, I've been incredibly unlucky. Because, I never really took care of myself at all. I never really exercised, I smoked. I didn't really drink much. That was the one thing that I never really did, despite being in the Navy. I never really went out drinking at all. I might have the occasional glass of wine with dinner, maybe once every 2 weeks, but I barely touched beer. It was only really when I retired from the Navy that I started getting a taste for it. Whiskey in particular. You can blame Flamu for that, by the way. The only real whiskey that I'd ever been exposed to was absolute garbage, like Bell's or the famous Grouse. You know, the kind of stuff that just tastes of disappointment in hospital corridors. And I was in St. Petersburg and at the hotel with Flamu. It was a World of Warships thing. The barman in the hotel was curating his own whiskey collection, and Flamu was a big whiskey drinker, and they had like a 20-year-old Macallan, and because it was in Russia, it was dirt cheap. And he said, "You've got to try this." And oh wow, so that's what a real whiskey actually tastes like. And that's kind of, it all went downhill from there. But I never really did alcohol, although I didn't exercise, I did smoke, and I just guzzled all of the unhealthy foods. And if it had sugar in it, I was like, yes please. I categorically, I took it like an affront to my manhood whenever somebody offered me anything that was sugar-free. I was pretty bad. And yet, despite that, I remember when I left the Navy, you have a medical when you leave the Navy. It's mostly to cover the Navy's arse in the event of any kind of insurance claim after you leave. So they can say, well, he was fine when he left. It's nothing to do with us. And my exit medical, I was fine. Despite just eating and drinking fatty and sugary foods and smoking 20 cigarettes a day every year of my life since I was like 14. Despite all of that, the only health issue was I had a slightly high cholesterol level, but it was still within the normal range. Other than that, no health problems at all. So, and that was when I was 41. Now I'm 56. and all through my 40s, no health issues whatsoever. And then I hit 50. And suddenly, oh my God. It's like, if it hadn't been for the fact that when I was in the Navy, I was assigned to Royal Hospital Haslar for a couple of years. If it wasn't for that, until I hit 50, I wouldn't have even known what the inside of a hospital looked like. And then it's diabetes, bowel cancer, heart attack, high blood pressure. I keep saying the only thing I haven't had yet is a stroke. So, if I survive to 60, on the one hand, I'm 60. But on the other hand, hey, I didn't actually think I was ever going to make it this long. So there's that. I'm not looking forward to 60, though. That is going to be really depressing. Oh, I've just had an even more depressing thought. So my friend Roy, when I'm 60, he's going to be 70. Now, I have to give it to him. It's going to be more depressing for him than it is for me. But it's still going to be depressing for me because I'm going to be 60 and I'm going to be friends with people who are 70. So There I go, making it all about me again. Oh, I need to get in touch with Roy. It's been a while since we spoke. But anyway, yeah, birthday tomorrow. I'm going to be 56, and I ain't dead yet. So anyway, what's been going on? Well, you might have heard that Bungie's new game, Marathon, is out. I don't care. It's an extraction shooter. Allegedly, it's deeply mediocre. Whatever. Like I say, I do not care. But I mean, it's at least not bad. You know, come to think of it, that really kind of sums up Bungie for me. Deeply mediocre, but at least not bad. Every game they have ever made has been like, Now, yeah, I know, Halo. Hold on. Hear me out. Put down the pitchforks and the burning torches. Allow me to explain. In fact, we'll go all the way back to the original Marathon. 1994, released on the Apple Macintosh. And then on the Pippin. And I don't even know what the Pippin is. I've at least heard of the Apple Macintosh. But this new version of Marathon, I mean, they're basically just trading on the legendary status of the original game. And it was legendary. But that's not saying... How can I put this? It was a Macintosh game. Right, it was competing against Minesweeper and Solitaire. The bar wasn't set very high. You know what I'm saying here? Prior to the release of Marathon on the Mac, the only game of any note that had ever been released on the Mac prior to that was a year earlier, Myst. And Myst was basically a slideshow. Right? The bar was not set particularly high, so it's not really surprising that the original Marathon has legendary status on the Macintosh. There was nothing else for Mac gamers to actually play. Then, of course, they did Halo, which needs no introduction, and you may not realise Halo was also originally a Macintosh exclusive. It was an Apple game. But then it was ported over to PC, and the world held its breath in anticipation. And when it came out on PC, everybody lost their minds. So I thought, oh, the reviews of this are amazing, I must play it. And so I played it. And I thought, am I playing the same game as everybody else? Because this is shit. It was a case of I could understand everybody on the Mac losing their minds over how amazing Halo was, because the best thing that they'd had up until that point was Marathon. But on the PC, allow me to explain. Because here's what was... we're talking about the original Halo here. Here's the original Halo. You're a dude with a gun. And admittedly, some very, very well-designed dudes and guns, but you're a dude with a gun in a field. There are some trees, they are a certain colour, there are some hills. You fight your way through the trees and the fields until you reach a building. You enter the building, and then you fight your way through one very long corridor. And then you get to the end of the corridor, and you're in some slightly different coloured fields with slightly different coloured trees. And you fight your way through those fields until you come to a building, and then you enter the building. And then you fight your way through a really, really long corridor. And then you come out of that corridor, and you know where this is going, right? It was literally that for like 8 hours. And I'm not exaggerating. It was field, tunnel, field, tunnel, field, tunnel. And this went on for something like 3 hours. And then suddenly, you got a level that was neither a field nor a tunnel. And you thought, hey! And then after that, it was field, tunnel for another 3 or 4 hours. And then another level that wasn't a field or a tunnel. Hey! And then the game ended. And this was apparently the best game ever. And again, I could understand that on the Apple Mac because, well, you know, the bar hadn't been set particularly high on that platform. But on PC? What crack pipe are you lots... Oh, hang on, it was the multiplayer, wasn't it? Okay. Yeah, right. I get it. I'll give you that one. As a single-player experience, it wasn't even mediocre. It was just bad. But the multiplayer was where everybody gets their fond memories of Halo from. So I'll give them that. Fair enough. Now, as for the subsequent Halo games, I do not know. I'm assuming that the multiplayer was just as good as in the first game, but I don't know whether or not the single-player story campaign was any good, because the first game soured me so badly that I never touched anything that Bungie ever did since. Well, that's not strictly true. I really liked the art direction on Destiny, and I had a quick go, and it just wasn't really my thing. I put a couple of hours into it and then didn't bother. And, again, I'm sure, like every other game that Bungie has ever done, it was fine, but nothing to write home about. And this brings us to Marathon, which is apparently fine, but, nothing to write home about. That's what $3.6 billion buys you, Sony. That's how much Sony paid to acquire Bungie in 2022, 4 years ago. Fine, but nothing to write home about. $3.6 billion. Money well spent there, eh, Sony? And speaking of Marathon, have you heard about the, theft, I suppose, is the only real way to call what Bungie have been doing with the art direction on Marathon, because the new Marathon game has a radically different art style to the original one. And they basically stole it. And they've admitted to stealing it. This isn't a maybe they did, maybe they didn't. No, they did. It's one of those things that's just so stupid, you wonder how they thought they could ever possibly get away with it. Because the one thing that I will say about Marathon, the one area in which it does absolutely excel, and I can say this without ever having played it or ever going to play it, is that it looks distinctive. It has a very striking visual design style, a sort of industrial science fiction look that you could look at a screenshot and tell straight away that you're looking at Marathon. The art style is so dramatic. So dramatic, in fact, that the person who designed all of those art assets, well, not all of the art assets, but a lot of the art assets, which most of the industrial sci-fi look of the game is based on, could also instantly tell exactly where it had come from. And she didn't work for Bungie. It came to light last year, because it was bloody obvious if you just look at the work that she's done, that an artist who goes by the name of Anti-Real had her art assets looted wholesale and used in Marathon. And this wasn't a case of one artist being inspired by another artist. I mean, that happens all the time. You lose count of the number of science fiction movies that get their design aesthetic from movies like Blade Runner or Alien. That doesn't mean there's any actual theft going on. People aren't scavenging the 20th Century Fox backlot in order to steal design elements from the bridge of the Nostromo. Being influenced by something isn't the same as stealing something, but Bungie were actually stealing. They weren't just designing stuff that looked like Anti-Real's art, they were taking her art and putting it into their game as art assets. And they weren't even trying to change it up a little bit, they were just literally stealing stuff. And when Anti-Real, because it hadn't been the first time her art had been stolen and used by somebody else, but when Anti-Real had enough and confronted them, said, that's it, enough of this shit. I want to say, to their credit, they at least immediately admitted to it. They didn't try to say, no, this is all of our stuff. So I want to kind of give them credit for that, but at the same time, the excuse that they offered was a bit weak sauce. It was the old the lone gunman explanation. This was all blamed on a former employee who no longer worked for them. Yeah, right. It couldn't possibly have been Marathon's art director, Joseph Cross, who actually followed Anti-Real on Twitter. No, of course not. It was a lone gunman who was no longer employed by the company. And you know what? It might have been. You could accept that explanation if Bungie hadn't done it before. 3 times. Just last year, they admitted that some fan art had been used, designing a Destiny 2 Nerf gun, promised to compensate and credit the artist. 3 years ago, they said it would do the same for another artist after an in-game Destiny 2 cutscene featured identical similarities to their artwork. And 5 years ago, in 2021, they confirmed that fan art of Zivu Arath, apparently a Destiny 2 character, was accidentally used in a trailer for their Witch Queen expansion. Let's just say that Bungie have a bit of a thing when it comes to stealing other people's work without giving them credit. So when they claim that it was an accident, and this is the 4th time it's happened that we know about, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. On the bright side, it was noted that when Marathon recently went on sale and people checked out the credits, Anti-Real had received a credit as a visual design consultant. And hopefully, she also got paid a shit ton of cash as well, given that, the whole look of the game is based on her work. Speaking of deeply mediocre, does anybody remember Mind's Eye? It's another one of those games that came with huge amounts of hype and completely failed to deliver. It's not fair to really compare it in the same vein as Marathon. Marathon is, by all accounts, not a bad game. It's fine. And at least looks great. Although Bungie themselves, as we've already discussed, can't really take credit for that. But Mind's Eye was just bad from start to finish. Despite the hype train, I don't know if I'm just living under a rock or something, but it was one of those games that I was never even really aware about until after it came out. And the only reason I was aware of it was because of the massive amount of negative media it was getting. That's what kind of provoked my interest. I think possibly it was more of a console game than a PC thing. In fact, was it even available on PC? Let me check. Yeah, I've just checked. It was a PC release. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was more hotly anticipated on console, which is why I'd never really heard of it until after all the negative press came out. Or maybe I just live under a rock. But whatever. The point is, it was hotly anticipated, it was massively hyped, and it was utterly dog shit. It received, deservedly so, massive amounts of negative press. And then the negative press just kept getting worse. Because the guys in charge of the development team, a studio known as Build a Rocket Boy, refused to accept any responsibility for the game being as shit as it was. And then the developers who worked under them started leaking. The usual terrible story. Utterly clueless management who didn't actually have any clear idea of what game they were trying to make. They kept changing design goals, moving the goalposts, waiting until something was 80% complete, and then changing their minds and making the developers go back and start from scratch. The studio lead, a guy called Leslie Benzies, was notorious for producing tickets about things that he wanted changed or implemented, and they would often contradict the previous ticket. The developers just called them Leslie tickets, or just Leslies. But the idea was that if one of these Leslies came in, no matter what you were doing, no matter how important the work you were doing, no matter how many other people were waiting on you to get that thing done before they could do their jobs, you had to drop whatever you were doing and deal with a Leslie ticket. That went straight to the top of the list, and it was constant, and he was sticking his nose into everybody else's business all at the same time, just micromanaging to a ridiculous degree. This Leslie Benzies guy wasn't the only one in charge at Build a Rocket Boy. His partner in crime, a guy who goes by the name of Mark Gerhard, was just as bad. The two of them instituted a punitive crunch process towards the end of development in order to hit the release window, with massive amounts of unpaid overtime worked by the developers. They were promised that they would get time off after the game came out. Most of them did get time off after the game came out. Most of them got sacked because the game was such a massive failure and they didn't get paid for any of that unpaid overtime that they'd done in the crunch period. So you'd think it's a pretty open and shut case of completely clueless leadership leading to a disaster of a game on release. You might think that, and you'd be wrong. Because just this week, Mark Gerhard, the CEO, just posted the news that the studio now has, and I quote, overwhelming evidence of organised espionage and corporate sabotage. That apparently was the reason that the game was buggered on launch. Apparently, all of those people who used to, and in some cases still do, unfortunately, work for Build a Rocket Boy during the development process of Mind's Eye, who were listing the trials and tribulations of working under these two clown shoes who were constantly changing design goals and moving the goalposts on everybody. That was not the reason that the game was such a massive steaming dog's turd. No, the actual reason was because, and again I'm quoting from Gerhard here, a very big American company, he's not saying exactly who, had spent over $1 million on a smear campaign targeting the game. And this isn't the first time that the two guys in charge have been throwing around allegations like this. Gerhard's other partner in crime, Benzies, the guy responsible for the Leslie tickets, right after the game came out, repeated an allegation that somebody, again, not saying who, was hosting bot farms, posting negative comments and dislikes. Oh, this all sounds very suspicious. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure it's not just because the two of you are a pair of pricks? No, it's corporate espionage. It's a deliberate sabotage campaign. Okay. So what does your publisher think of this? The publisher, IO Interactive, their response can basically be summed up as, no, it's just that they're a pair of pricks. What, you want the exact quote? Okay. Honestly, mine's better, but yes, okay. During an interview with IGN, the CEO of IO Interactive, a guy who goes by the name of Hakan Abrak, replied to this line of questioning with a flat denial. He said, I don't know. I don't believe that. I just think the game should speak for itself. And it did. He's also on record as saying he doesn't think he's going to be working with Build a Rocket Boy again. But no, yeah, corporate espionage. Yeah, that's why. It's not just that the two of you are a pair of arseholes. Well, I mean, maybe it's not fair to just write them off like that, despite the evidence of, well, everybody who ever worked for them insisting that, yes, they are just a pair of arseholes. Let's take a look at some actual evidence. Like, for example, their very own second teaser trailer. So this is an official teaser trailer from Build a Rocket Boy in advance of the game coming out. Obviously, that's what a teaser trailer is. But bear in mind, before I start running this, what you're about to see is promotional material. They had all kinds of assets to choose from, and they cherry-picked the best that they had to showcase the game ahead of release in the best possible light. This is what they chose to demonstrate to the public in order to build up hype for their game. You ready for this? Here we go. It's a fairly short clip. I mean, it's only a teaser after all, but at around about the 40-second mark, we see him coming around the corner, hitting a pedestrian who ragdolls off doing the splits as a taxi over the road, drives down the street on its back, then flips over and carries on as if nothing happened. This is their idea of showing the game off looking as best as it possibly can. These two twats want the world to believe that an unnamed but very big American company spent $1 million to sabotage the game's development when, without any interference from anybody outside the company, that video footage came over their desks and the two of them said, yep, that's great. That's what we want to show to the world about how good this game is going to be a month before release. Yeah, I'm going with the arsehole theory. Speaking of management who have absolutely no idea what they're doing or why they're doing it, it cannot have escaped your notice that Microsoft are getting very, very sensitive about people referring to them as Microslop, given their insistence on cramming their Copilot AI into absolutely everything imaginable, regardless of whether or not it's appropriate or anybody asked for it in the first place. So sensitive, in fact, that they recently took the step of banning the word Microslop in their Copilot Discord server. People began noticing blocked messages with a "your message contains a phrase that is inappropriate" flag. Turns out the word was Microslop. Well, how can I put this? I'm sure what Microslop thought was going to happen was that the Discord users would respect their feelings and stop saying Microslop. But really? Are you new here or something? Microslop, have you been on the internet for long? Of course, what actually happened was all of the people on the Discord server took it as a challenge. And remember, these are not people on some random subreddit somewhere. These are people who voluntarily, through their own choice, joined the Copilot Discord. So presumably, they're people who actually like and are using Microsoft Copilot. And even these people, the second they realised they were being censored, they took it as a challenge. Coming up with all kinds of inventive ways to get around the chat filter. How about we say sloppy soft instead? Suggested one user. I'm slopping on that beat, says another. How goes it, my fellow sloppers? Cheerily announced another. I'm just here to say Microslop. You'll not be surprised to learn that Microslop conceded defeat and removed the chat filter. Or did they? Well, it's true that the filter is no longer in place. The reason is open to debate, with Microsoft claiming that they didn't deliberately ban the word Microslop from Discord. It was just an overzealous chat filter doing what overzealous chat filters do. Wait a minute, hang on, back up. An overzealous chat filter? Look, a chat filter is just a list of words that you're not allowed to use, that get filtered out. Chat filters don't just start adding words to the list. It takes a moderator to do that. And yet Microsoft is saying that no moderator added the word Microslop to the chat filter. Now, assuming they're telling the truth, and I prefer to believe that they are because that makes it even funnier, right? Assuming they're telling the truth and the chat filter itself added the word Microslop to the list of filtered words, that means they've got an AI agent moderating their Discord server, and it's probably Microsoft Copilot. So Microsoft Copilot, the reason why everybody calls Microsoft Microslop, objected to the use of the term Microslop. And you can see where I'm going with this, can't you? Microsoft, do you understand? Do you see why? Please tell me you do. You cannot possibly be that stupid. Well, okay, they can. And on that bombshell, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I've given you something to laugh about. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.